Our predictions have been right before, just like they were in this episode. Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakdown Podcast YouTube channel. My name's Corey, and with me once again to help break down Superman and Lois, it's Vic.
Oh, welcome back. That's me.
Look, I pointed the right direction.
Yes, you got it correct, sir.
And before we get started on that, we do want to let you know we have a show we do live every Tuesday. And it's at twitch.tv/MillerKing_51. The link will be in the description down below. Come by every Tuesday. We do it at 7 p.m. Eastern. And currently we're talking Cobra Kai as well as The Flash, which comes back it came back last week. We're going to start talking about it this week. So come by, hang out with us. And if you watch the show, feel free to leave us your comments in the chat, and we'll include it as part of the show. We're one big family. So come by and check it out. Also, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button down below as well too. Hit that bell for notifications, and leave some comments and let us know what you thought of this episode or where the show may be going as well too. All of that helps out the channel so much. And if you can't come by and watch the show live on Tuesdays, we're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So, with that being said, Vic, let's break it down.
All right. So as always, everyone, we are going to break this show up into segments based on the storylines. We're going to start with the least interesting of all the storylines, in our opinion. Obviously, some of you may think highly of it. However, we think it's just kind of the filler. Yes. It's the extra crumblies on the top of the cake that's not necessary. But it's still
and I'll put an asterisk. I'll put an asterisk here too. Is it is technically the second one. The first one we're not even going to talk about because we really don't care, and that's the Lana's daughter storyline. Don't care. No,
but it's part of the Lana storyline. Like it's still
yes, and
the dynamics of what's going on with her.
I'm talking about her story arc with her, not only her dad leaving, but not being able to maintain a relationship with what's his name. I honestly don't care. This is what we talked about previously with the concern with it being on CW and be like, are we going to have these high school type storylines that don't have anything to do with the actual main character of the show? And that's what this is. Don't care. It has nothing to do with Superman. Doesn't have anything to do with Lois. You don't honestly care. So, Lana is the first one we're dealing with today in this episode. And
I'm going to lodge my my complaint about that idea of that, because I think that this is part of the storyline of Lana's storyline, because it all fills into what they're doing with her and the whole becoming mayor of mayor of the city or whatever it is.
It has a little bit to do with it, but there was less screen time with her than Lana in this episode, I think. I mean, somebody's gonna go, oh no, she was in there for 5 minutes. Lana was only 4. So, I just don't care about
let's just placate my desire. Let's placate my desire to at least get the story in there, so that I'll roll through it quickly, so you don't have to suffer. Okay. So basically, what it comes down to is Sarah and Lana have a conversation about the fact that her dad is just calling Sarah constantly, trying to get a hold of her. Obviously, he wants to have a chance to try to reconcile with her as to what happened and have her hear his side of the story, and she's not hearing any of it. She has doubled down on just helping her mom get through this and helping her sister, who, again, was actually brought up this episode but never seen. And her mom's like,
went upstairs and never returned.
Yeah, she's like, if you want to talk to him, like he keeps calling you. She's like, well, he's calling me like crazy all the time, constantly. And the whole thing is stressing her to the point where she's not really wanting to explain anything to Jordan. She's not really wanting to talk to her dad, but she's also kind of torn on whether or not she should. Her mom tells her to do what she thinks best. She said, you should probably talk to somebody, even if it's not Jordan. Talk to somebody you trust. And that's when she makes a phone call to a friend. She phones a friend, like in the game shows. And a young lady shows up at the diner, and they talk over somebody some fries.
She knew for a whole week.
And, well, it's somebody that she knew at summer camp that she obviously got very close to, and I think it was for more than a week. It was like a month. You go to summer camp for like 3.5, 4 weeks. But either way, she's at summer camp, and I believe that this is the girl that she kissed, which caused the whole issue with Jordan at the beginning. And she apologizes for ghosting her. They come to amends. She has a discussion with her about her father, and she's like, hey, if you want to talk to your dad, just talk to him. At least hear him out, see what the situation is. And she's like, but do it on your terms. And at the end of this episode, she ends up walking up to her dad and asking him if they can talk, and he says yes. So that's it. That's all there is for her. Moving into Lana. Go ahead.
You see the excitement that was there for that?
Only because you were absolutely against the whole thing, so it makes it hard. You're never going to be excited about it, but it's part of the story, and we talk about the story. Dude, if I have to sit through some of the BS that has to be talked about for us for Flash, we can get through this.
So while all that's going on, Lana's got her issues because she's still going through the whole thing too, and moving him out, moving all his stuff out, and Lois shows up at one point, which we'll get to her. We'll get to her with Soups in a minute. That's what I start calling him now, Soups.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but okay.
I think I saw that. So I think it was somewhere.
He's referred to as Soups by some of the people in the Justice League. I feel like some of the kids
that's where I got it from, and now it just stuck with me. But anyhow, she shows up to talk to Lana, and Lana's like, of course, she's telling her what's going on with her and whatnot.
You've got it backwards. Well, she goes to see Lana. I mean, she goes to see Lois because of the newspaper ad in the news in their paper. So she goes to see her.
And there was that. She does see her that first time, and because she saw an ad for the guy that's trying to get reelected for mayor. And
talking about he's the family values candidate.
Yeah. And then later on, but Lois does go to Lana's house later.
Yeah.
And talks to her. But then after that, Lana then shows up at the diner where this guy is talking to some of the people of the town, talking about family values and all this stuff. And then right on cue, she comes through the door and says, start talking about, oh yeah, you want to, drag, somebody this part of this town down during the weakest point, or during a weak point in their life. You think family does that to family members and blah, blah, blah. And of course, then you've got the dejected reactions from everybody else going, oh yeah, I don't think I'm going to vote
The one dude he went to elementary school was like, oh, forget this. He threw down his pamphlet.
Yeah, it's like, how did you guys not see that in the first place?
Yeah, but the way that they've been playing this whole election battle, they did the same thing to her. They did the same thing to the guy that was trying to do it. They would throw something out there, and then they would deject the idea of them, and then they would move to the next thing. Nobody in this town knows who they're going to vote for, because every couple episodes they change their mind who they're going to vote for. But I think this was the nail in his coffin as far as it goes.
It's because every person they get behind, somebody comes along and does something shady to them, or says something shady about him. Like, oh yeah, okay, I'm not voting for that person.
But that guy's been shady the whole time, though. They know who he is. I don't know why Lana hasn't just straight up told them what he did to her. That should be the nail. That should have been the nail in the coffin right off the bat. I've been like, what this guy did? You know what he said? Huh?
Yeah.
He was talking to somebody from the council. That's literally from that town.
But the person would just deny it.
Yeah, that depends on if
I don't recall that meeting.
That's assuming that they're on his side. Like, you don't know that that person was on his side. But
very true.
Either way, I actually like the idea of this whole, like, her trying to run for mayor and, like, her fighting this dude because he's just dirty and he's swarmy and I don't like him, obviously, because he's just that, like, you just want to kick him. Like, dude, like, you don't want to see that guy win. But obviously she's going to put up a fight. I don't think she's actually going to win. I think she's going to actually lose to him because he's going to do something dirty and underhanded and end up winning, and that's just going to be how it works out.
Nope, she's going to end up winning.
You think she's going to win?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't think so. We'll see how it plays out. Anyway.
All right. So then we move on to the twins. Well, we found out last week that Jordan was found doping, if you will,
XK,
and then this episode, his girlfriend shows up to school.
Very unfortunately,
he's still at odds with his brother at this point, and his girl shows up, and she's like, "Oh, that was so great at the game, blah, blah, blah. Look, I brought you some." And gives him a whole grocery bag full of these things.
Dude, and this is my question. Where is she getting it from?
Yeah.
Who's her supplier? Because whoever her supplier is, they're making those inhalers. They're obviously getting a hold of the XK, and they're actually, like, pumping these people full of this stuff. They have to know what it does. So, like, who's her supplier? Like, and the only person that I can think of is Allie Alston, to be honest, because the government doesn't have it, because the government confiscates it and ends up putting it away. So it's not the government. But it would explain why the scientist lady was running the show at the mine, because she was collecting that stuff for Allie. That's the only guess I can think of. But they have not covered this point, and there has to be somebody pushing this stuff to her.
Season 3's big bad right there.
Maybe. But anyway,
it can be an ongoing story arc that you take through as who they're trying to find out who's doing the supplying. Just put it out there, HBO and
HBO?
CW. Yeah,
CW.
They produced
Where'd you
it.
get HBO from?
Because it's on HBO as well. It's an HBO production that they license over to the CW. Why do you think the production value is so much better?
Yeah, I still, but I don't know. Anyway,
that's what it is. So anyhow, when she gives it to him, he rejects it. It's like, I'm not going to do it anymore. Yeah. Gives it back to her.
She's like, but you have to.
Just as he's saying that, the cops walk in with police dogs, and she's like, "You got to take this." No, I don't.
Yeah, because she's like, "Oh, you have to take this, and my family, it'll destroy my family. It'll destroy me, and what'll happen to my dad." I'm like, yeah, but you don't care what happens to Jonathan?
Yeah, it's like, well, what about me? I'm going to get way busted.
But of course, Jonathan sprung on that P, and he's just like, you know what? I'm a good kid. They'll never do anything to me. I'm the all-American boy. My parents are superstars of the town. It's fine. I'll take it. And he freaking takes the hit for her. Good God.
We saw this coming.
Ridiculous.
He ends up getting caught with it, which leads him to possibly being expelled. They haven't said by the end of the episode. They never say what happens. And of course, when Lois finds out, that's when she was with Lana at the time.
And she gets the phone call.
Yeah.
The dreaded phone call from the principal.
Yeah. That was the first time she was with Lana. And then she, they do it off camera, but she goes to pick him up, and then, fast forward to them being at home, and she tries to find out who it was, or whose it was, and he won't say because he's no snitch. Snitches get stitches.
I want stitches, Mom.
And so he's not, by the end of the episode, he's still
Hold on. No. So he's like, I can't tell you anything. And then fucking Jordan walks in and he's like, yeah, he was taking XK, dummy. She's like, hold on, you knew about this? I was like, dude, why did you walk in and tell her you knew? You should have just walked into your room and been like, I am staying out of this. But no. And of course, Jonathan's like, well, he came at me about it. So I decided that it wasn't the right thing to do. Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, all right, you're both grounded. Get in the room. Good Lord.
Yeah. So he's not saying who did it. Lois ends up going to Lana later to find out, she's like, I can't believe that he would do something like this. And okay, yeah, I guess they would have that conversation, but I mean, it's so cliche to hear those type of conversations and stories that involve this.
Yeah,
I really wish we kind of get away from it a little bit.
You can't when it has. I mean, the storyline is a storyline, and when it comes to things like this, like if they're going to involve drugs in the storyline in some way, shape, or form, they're going to have this. These conversations are going to have to be had, and these lines are going to have to be said. It's done in every single show that has a teenager in it when they come across this thing, because it's the progression of the teenage thing. There's love, there's drugs, there's sex, there's rejection, and
there's rock and roll.
Well, no, there's love, there's drugs, there's sex, there's rejection. Those are like the four things that always happen in every teenage storyline. Oh, and pregnancy. I forgot about that one. At some point that comes up, but I don't think it'll happen here. But like those are the things that are always a challenge to any kind of like teenage driven story. So it was bound to happen. It almost writes itself. It's what's gonna come.
So by the end of the episode, there really isn't much advancement on the story at all. It's just left that he's not saying anything. We'll get to Superman's story arc in a second, but because he's involved in this one, I'll top this one off. He does get home at the end of the episode and gives him pretty much a tongue lashing in terms of what he's done.
He's like, after the day I've had, this is what I have to come home to? Thanks a lot, kid.
Yeah, so you could see, he starts crying afterwards, and I'm thinking he's starting to make a turn.
You think he's turning to the dark side? With
the
tears? The tears brought you to that conclusion, really?
Yeah. Yeah. No, there were some looks prior that he just had this kind of like really pissed off look on his face.
But if he's trying to be noble and not snitch on somebody, then this is the direction you think he's going in?
Yeah, I think it's starting to, because he's going to become resentful, because he mentions that everybody in the family has something special about him, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's eating away at him, and I think that's what could turn him.
But Lois doesn't. Lois has nothing special about her.
Lois is a famous journalist.
She does a job. There's nothing special about her. She does a job.
But in all fairness, his brother and his dad both have superpowers. She's a famous journalist. He has nothing. He's literally got nothing. That's what he's basing it on.
I think I understand where you're saying with it, but when it comes down to it, I think what's going to end up happening is he's going to think he needs the powers. He needs the XK to have the powers, and it's going to be that whole thing. You didn't need the drugs. You had it inside you the whole time. You're a real boy, and that's where they're going to end up going with it. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. Because our predictions have been right before, just like they were in this episode. And that's what I'm talking about in Superman's storyline for this episode. We were left with last episode. He was getting wheeled into the super protective cell with his brother, which we both said that they're going to end up teaming up. Was it both of us who said that, or was it just me? I think we both said it.
You said that they were going to end up teaming up and they were going to break out. And then once they broke out, they were gonna defeat Bizarro together and bring him to justice or something. I don't remember exactly, but my thing was, but where I broke off, where I was like, I don't know. You were like, Talro's that's gonna be his redemption arc, and he's gonna get away, and that's how he's gonna become a better person. And I was like, I don't know about that part.
Well, it's funny you mention all that, because they did break out this episode. They did break out because they found out that Mr. Anderson I take that back. He's wanting the location. He's wanting the location of where Bizarro is.
And he ends up putting them together and threatening them. And he's like, I'm not telling you anything. And then he realizes that Superman can't let someone be tortured in his presence and him not do something about it. And the only thing he could do about it was tell the truth. Like, tell them what they wanted to know. Which look, people, we know you torture someone if they tell you something, it's just what you want to hear. So they're not going to give you the real information if you're sitting there torturing them. So they're torturing Tal Ro, and he's like, "You tell me, or I'm going to turn up the juice." Like, okay.
Okay, dude.
And he's like, "All right, I'll tell you."
Giving him coordinates, and it turned out to be coordinates to the mine.
No, not the mine. It was the
that's where they found the helmet.
No. It was the coordinates to the Arctic base.
Is that where Bizarro took the helmet?
Yeah, because Bizarro went there first. He flew there first, trying to find him, because that's the Fortress of Solitude. He knows that there's a Fortress of Solitude in his world. It's there's no telling, but he knows that's where it is. So he went there at first, and he breaks out of the suit in the Fortress of Solitude. That's where he sent him, was to the Arctic Circle.
Okay, I was thinking it was the mines.
No,
but even still, Anderson realizes he's been duped, and he gives Superman one last chance.
Well, after he leaves, the best part about it was when they start speaking in Kryptonian to each other. Like I like that they threw that piece in there, because they know that they're being listened to. They know they're being spied on. So they just start speaking in Kryptonian, because no one knows Kryptonian but Kryptonians. And I was like, that was a good touch. Like, I really like that little bit that they put in there. So yeah, they come back and they're like, "You lied to us." And in the process of that happening, they just get into a fight, and I'm like, "Oh, this is a setup." Like, as soon as they start fighting, I was like, "This is a setup. I know it."
Yeah, so they get in a fight, which ends up leading the guards to come in, which gives them the out, and they both first his brother takes off, then Superman takes off after him. They head to where Bizarro really is,
right?
And I thought his brother was funny in this scene.
He was. I thought it was
like, because Bizarro tells him he's in my world, you're married, or your wife tried to kill me.
Oh, dude, you know who he's married to, right?
I'm sure it's Lois.
No, it's not. He's gonna end up being his alternates. His Bizarro self is married to Allie Alston. Any amount of money, that's what happens. I bet you. I'm almost 100% positive that when it comes down to it, it's going to be Allie Alston that's his wife.
I can see that.
Because they talk about her wanting to take over the world, right? They had she had pre-built a Yellow Sun corridor to keep him out. So she's obviously been warring with him because she knows his weaknesses, and she was defending herself against him. That's why that corridor from last week was there. So I'm almost positive that in the Bizarro world, Allie Alston is married to Tal Ro.
Okay. So he makes a joke about trying to find her on this earth, and but so I thought it was funny, but they end up not being able to really get any information out of Bizarro because Mr. Anderson shows up, because he decided to take things into his own hands, juiced himself up, and now he's got power.
Well, he didn't exactly decide to take it into his own hands. He was kind of forced into it, because the commanding officer, she was like, "You're just messing everything up. If you don't get this under control, you're out. I'm going to demote you. You're going to be done. You'll never work in this town again." And he is like, "Yeah, I'm not going to let that happen." So he goes, "I'm not going to let that happen. I need to make this work." He thinks that if he can bring in Bizarro, that will fix everything. But his plan to bring in Bizarro after the Supes, as you like to refer to them, have escaped, is to create, like, to become treasonous. Like, he goes against everything that they have going on.
In his eyes, somebody needs to go after this thing, and everybody else has failed. I'm gonna have to do it myself. And so he's stepping up.
But I think that the commanding officer...
Am I agreeing with his decision? No.
I think the commanding officer was trying to tell him, like, "Look, what are you doing?" Like, she told him to handle it, but he's handling it wrong. And she was about to pull his plug, and he couldn't have that happen. So he wanted to find a way to do it. But after letting them get away, like, if they got away, they promised to bring Bizarro back. Like, he told him he would bring him to him. and he wouldn't let him go to do it. So they let him go. They got away. They didn't let him go. They got away. They go to get him. He should have just waited. They would have brought him back. Like, that was the whole point. Like, he said that he would give him to him, but they didn't want to. He didn't want to let him do it.
He interrupts the Inquisition and starts a fight. Now, he handles Soups and his brother kind of easily.
And here's that trope again. I can't.
Probably too easily.
I can't. I hate it. I hate every time they do it. Every time a new bad comes in, they're too strong. Like, he's too strong for Superman to be able to handle, and it's ridiculous.
And Superman's mom lets Bizarro out to take care of Anderson because Superman's brother has already been hit by the kryptonite gun, and Superman tried to heal him, but it wasn't working. So his mom lets Bizarro out and fights Anderson, while Superman takes his brother up to the sun to hopefully heal him. He ends up bringing him back down, but you assume that it didn't work because he isn't standing up and alive again.
Right.
Bizarro gets killed by Anderson.
Well, that fight kind of annoyed me also. So here's my problem with Anderson altogether. Anderson goes into the Hell Locker and steals a bunch of all the vials of XK, the inhalers. That's the inhalers that they took from Jonathan.
Yeah.
Okay. So he steals, which obviously means the government has confiscated it from the cops, which is fine.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's what it is.
I think these are totally different. They just happen to be in the same vial because of budget.
Nope. I think because they even said they're not going to press any charge. He said
hold on. Do you think that the government in this case is putting the XK out there in order to create their super soldiers?
No. I can see where that would seem right, but they have no control over who's getting it. So if criminals are getting a hold of it,
I don't care.
Yeah, they do. You don't want a super criminal. You don't want a super criminal out there with XK that you gave them. Then you have to try to deal with them, and two of your soups have already been killed. So no. This is what I think happened. So Jonathan gets busted with this stuff, right? And they said the police department aren't even pressing charges. They've dropped it, but you're still being expelled from school, right? The reason why they dropped it is because the cops don't have any evidence, because the DOD came in and said, we're taking over this case, give us that stuff, and then they just scrubbed it. They're like, we want all your records, we want all your stuff, and they got rid of it because obviously the general still has some pull with the DOD, so he probably went to the new commander and said, hey, this is my grandson involved with this, go get that stuff, you don't want it out on the street, and you don't want anybody getting to it through the cops because that's not defended enough. So with that in mind, he goes in, he steals all of the vials. He's apparently got them in his utility belt. He keeps pulling out of nowhere, but this is my problem. We know that XK is volatile. We know that they don't know exactly what powers it's going to give you right away. And it took like a week for Jonathan to, well, not technically, like 3 days for Jonathan to be able to halfway function with that stuff in his system. But Anderson can inhale some of it, and all of a sudden he's got all the superpowers necessary, knows how to use them, and can go fight Superman, Bizarro, and Tal-Rho within like a half an hour. It's bad. That's bad storytelling. But the plot armor is that he's inhaled the XK. He goes in, he takes down Superman, he takes down Tal-Rho within a matter of minutes. Then, as he's doing that, Lar-El says, "Save my sons." And of course, Bizarro's like, all right, fine. Like, you've had me captured for over 2 weeks inside of the cage. You haven't fed me. I'm just going to let you go. You're just going to open the cage and let me go. Okay, I'll go do it. So he goes and attacks Mr. Anderson.
Now he's dead.
But he was beating Anderson because Anderson thought he was going to be slick and shoot him with kryptonite. Because he still hasn't read the room or done the assignment. You hit him with kryptonite, you're giving him extra strength, because when he hits him, he just kind of pumps it into his chest and then goes hog wild on Anderson. And ends up breaking one of the XK vials, which is when Anderson realizes, oh, the XK will harm him like kryptonite. So he proceeds to destroy all of his XK serum to stop Bizarro. If you get rid of all your serum, how are you going to stay a super?
That's a good question, Vic. I'm not real sure how you would do that. Yeah, I didn't really think about this part of the fight too much. I think, like I said, I was pretty much preoccupied with the whole Superman part of it. But I obviously this is part of his storyline too. But I'm more into the Superman character in this case, so I want to know what's going on. And like I didn't really have that hard of feelings. I am kind of irritated the fact that he didn't give them any information, so our main characters are still clueless.
I mean, other than the fact of who they are, like, because the entire time they were telling him, like, you need to go check out Allie Alston. She's a problem that's going to get worse if you don't deal with it. You need to solve it now, and that's why Bizarro was here. You wanted to know why he was here and what he's doing. That's why he's here, and that's what he's doing. And Anderson's just like, oh, that has nothing to do with anything. I want the bad guy. Like, okay.
Yeah, so Anderson gets away and then decides to go find Allie and say, hey, I've got this necklace here. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, can you tell me what it does? I'm like, oh my
You
Lord.
are a moron in the worst way. So that's where the episode ends.
Like any stupid bad guy, let's take the thing that we've had control of the entire time that we knew was a problem. Let's take it to the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. But getting back to Superman, his brother ends up waking up back in the cell with Superman, and so he apparently did not die. Superman says he's mended ways with the government, so he's back on good terms. And Anderson is AWOL now. So yeah, that's where it's kind of left. We don't know where it's headed at this point.
It's kind of fucked up. It's kind of fucked up because this is the second time that he's helped him in this situation, through these situations. It's the second time he's assisted him. And like he's standing there, he's like, "Oh, so we're back in our cell. Well, this kind of sucks." He's like, "Well, you're back in the cell. I'm going home. Well, see you later."
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think his brother has grown. His character has grown, and now he understands that he's got to do the time. While at the same time, I think he has, after this whole thing, I think he has started to turn to the good side a little bit. I don't think he's necessarily 100% there, but it's maybe at 20%, maybe 20% good. I don't know.
I'm not giving him any good at all. This point, he's opportunistic, and that's it.
At this point, I would not be surprised to see him show back up in the finale to help Superman defeat Allie and whoever else she may have on her side. I think it's a possibility, but I can't say for sure. I haven't written that one in stone yet, but I have a feeling.
Hear me out. Mm-hmm. Hear me out. Jonathan wants to be more than Jonathan is, right?
Yes.
And if that's the case, and Talro at the end of the episode is like, "Hey, tell your son I'm sorry for what I did." And hopefully, and he's like, well, maybe one day you'll be able to tell him yourself. Hear me out. What if Talro shows up and he has a heart-to-heart with Jonathan and starts telling him, he's like, yeah, I understand what it's like to be the non-favorite son, yada, yada, yada. And that's actually how Jonathan ends up turning kind of to the bad side by listening to his uncle. And he's like, I'll show you how to use your powers or something like that. And he ends up going with Talro when Talro is, because I'm still sure Talro's going to escape. He's gonna try to get away in this whole thing. He's gonna go find Allie Alston when he figures out that was his wife in the other world, and that's going to thing. But this is the other thing. He said that Bizarro was dead. Like Superman said, he's dead, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't see that. Like, we know that he wasn't moving, but neither was Talro. You see what I'm saying? We thought Talro was dead also. What if he took Bizarro in, gave him to the new general, the new leader of the DOD, and said, "Here he is. This is what's going on, but we have a more pressing danger right now, and that's the fact that Mr. Anderson is out there. He's got superpowers from the XK, and he's also got the amulet that we need to find because it needed to be destroyed, and that's what Bizarro was trying to do." So at this point, there could be a yellow sun cell somewhere in the DoD black site that has Bizarro in it, because I don't see them just killing off Bizarro completely without any kind of
possible.
real.
It's possible. I mean, he could just be unconscious for all we know.
And they just don't want him to know that. They don't want anyone to know he's alive. So
yeah,
see what happens.
We'll see. All right, we do want to thank you for watching. That is going to end this episode. And on behalf of Vic,
and that's me,
I'm Corey. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.
See ya.